Big Z Reviews. The Pitt is the newest hospital drama series that is it's close to wrapping up its first season, and I think this may be one of the best shows about a hospital I've ever seen. Definitely the most realistic.
52 in the waiting room, and it's not even 7.
Robbie's working the shift, by the way. Cut him a little slack today. It's the anniversary of Dr. Adamson's death.
We've got some new faces with us today. Hi, come on over.
I'm so happy to be here. Talk to me at the end of the day.
Clear.
Forceps,
Full suction. Med student down.
welcome to the Pit. Let's go save some lives.
So I feel like there are like three types of hospital shows. You have like the ones like House, where there's like a mystery that they have to solve, some crazy illness that the patient has. Then you have like a realistic one like this, and you have like the soap operas like Grey's Anatomy that take place at a hospital. And like this is like kind of like ER so a lot of them kind of bridge both, especially if they go a long time. They can do other things depending on the episode, but this one is just like you're there for a shift. You're there for like 12, 15 hours, whatever it is. Like you're there for them, every minute of their lives. And it's kind of crazy. Like the main character is Noah Weil as Dr. Michael Rabinovich, or Dr. Robbie. And like he's back from ER, he's at it again, and he's amazing. Like he is this show's heart and soul. Because like he has a lot of time, like he is the head of the ER. Like this all takes place in the emergency room. And the idea is, he is still, this is like anniversary of when his mentor passed away during COVID, and he's still like having some PTSD from that, like in between scenes. But like he's having there is no real romantic drama. Like no one's sneaking away to the restroom to bang each other. This is a show that like they're trying to find time to take a piss, like between all the emergencies. But of course there is still drama. There's like the idea that they started the show. They always say the thing that like that if you can, don't go to the hospital. Is it like June 3rd or something like that? It's like when the residents have their first day in the job, the new first year residents, the doctors, student doctors, and like you have like a group of student doctors like Taylor Dearden, Issa Briones, and Garen Howell, and Shabana Aziz, and like they're like kind of your entrance characters. But then you also, along with Noah Weil, you have Tracy Ifichor and Fiona Dourif and Patrick Ball, and that's kind of like the main people you follow. There's a bunch of others. There's a lot of like everyone's amazing. Like you have like a rotating cast of patients and other doctors too. But I think that's your kind of core group, and it's interesting seeing what they take time with. It's definitely more focused on the doctors, on the nurses, on what they go through, and how traumatic it can be. It's interesting watching the YouTuber Dr. Mike. Like he has done like 3 episodes, like a breakdown, and it's so funny. Like it's like really well done. He's saying, "Oh, that but it's that." And it's like he doesn't really complain about anything, and like it's very realistic. Sometimes it's like some of the things that they have, like I think they must be using. I don't know if they're just using like practical effects. Like they have an effect house doing these hospital things, so it looks like real wounds and real women giving birth, or if they're having like real the dolls that like student doctors use or something. It's like the stuff looks real, and it's very well done with all the different things that are happening. And definitely, like I said, there's still drama. There's still things like there's people that like the one that Issa Briones, like she's kind of a bitch. She's one of the student doctors, but she's like kind of like a know-it-all and like kind of being a little bit of a bully to some of the other people. But then like she she thinks that something is going on, like some medicine, for a while you think like medicine is mislabeled or something, or like tightened too much. But there's a lot of stuff going on with there that's very interesting, where you think that, oh, she's just a horrible person. Like, oh wait, maybe she might be right. And of course, like right now, like there in the newest episodes, there's like a big like multi-episode event, but still was kind of realistic. As like it's still over the top. Like there's a lot of stuff happening in this one shift at this emergency room. But I mean, I'm sure in all of the days at emergency room, there have been some crazy days. And this one, like the big event, is there's like a mass casualty event, and they're the closest hospital to it. So that like it's really interesting to see like how what that would look like. Like it's craziness. But it's funny. Like I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm kind of like in between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and this takes place in Pittsburgh. And it is very interesting that no one has a Pittsburgh accent. Like the Pittsburgh accent is very unique. Like all the yinzers, there's lots of weird stuff. For me, like our accent, like I wouldn't say we don't have an accent where I'm from, but the only thing is like we say crick. We say crick, and like we drugged something instead of like dragged. Like there's some weird colloquialisms we have. Like the only one is like the blonde head nurse has a slight twang that could be Pittsburghian, but for the most part, like I understand like a lot of the doctors might not be Pittsburgh natives, but like none of even none of the patients have a Pittsburgh accent, and definitely there is levels to it, but like there are some heavy Pittsburgh accents at times. But it's interesting because in Pennsylvania, there's kind of like a hospital war going on. Like there's the UPMC, the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, has spread across the state, and that's like our main hospital where I live is UPMC. But then we also the other one is Geisinger, and UPMC is interesting because it's like it's from the university, but it's like if you go into it, it's like a giant mall. Like if you have like you can go by the emergency room. They have like in the lower section, and you can go in. It's like this escalators you go with, and then but then there's also like the other parking lot. The parking garage you can go to is gigantic, and there's like this giant bridge that you have to cross to get into the hospital area. But then the other one is the Great War, the Great Hospital War of Pennsylvania is against UPMC against Geisinger. And Geisinger is like more towards central and more like, but they're like this weird hospital city in the middle of nowhere, Danville, where it's just like this, the whole city is hospital. It's like this giant campus in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. But they're like my city, there's like right outside the city, technically, there's like a brand new Geisinger hospital that you can go to. And like they're warring, like if you go to any Doc in a Box area, it's either going to be UPMC or Geisinger. But it's kind of funny that this is a Pittsburgh hospital, but it's not UPMC, you know. But I'm sure there's other like smaller hospitals throughout Pittsburgh. It's a big city, but like it's interesting. But it's really interesting to see this because I mean, I do think that it would help patients have a little bit of grace towards what going to an emergency room will be like. Because the idea that you get triage, but if you're not in like immediate immediate deaths, you have to wait for the more severe patients. And if part of the show, this one patient keeps getting more and more upset because he's in the waiting room until he explodes. But they like you have to have a little bit of grace. But I know like these people, this is their job. That's what's so the health field is so interesting because this is like their job that they go to every day. Or I don't know, they have to, a lot of times they might go like they go through like a couple days at a time, and they're off for a couple of days. There's a couple of different things that they can do, but it's like you have to like be patient with them, even though I know it's your life and death a lot of the times, but it's like a Wednesday for them. Like for me, some of the worst moments of my life have been in the hospital, but for them it's just another day. But at the same time, it's still going to affect them. You know, they have the lives of real people in their hands, you know, but it's the way they tackle it is enthralling, and you really feel for them. Although sometimes, like, I feel like a couple times they'll focus on a patient, especially like this one old guy that's from a nursing home that had a DNR, but then like the kids didn't want them to honor it and they wanted to put him on life support. They spent a lot of time on that, and it's like he can move on a bit. There's also like some other stuff. Like they have a couple of fentanyl overdoses, some interesting stuff. At the time, they spend a lot of time with a kid that's obviously brain dead. But I think you have to like get some time. But there's a lot of interesting stuff here. And there's so many different like places for the medical field. That's great to see more of them featured in here. A lot of the different nurses and stuff, and the different doctors, kind of see what a realistic look at what it is like. Like my family has definitely an extended field, like part of the health field. Like my dad, he had a full scholarship to wrestle at college, but he completely tore up his shoulder and then couldn't pay for the next semester and had to drop out. But then he was drafted for the Vietnam War, but then he as a medic. But then he had two brothers that are already in Vietnam, so instead they sent him to Germany, where he mainly was just like a phlebotomist. Like he just drew blood most of the time, and then saw like Jimi Hendrix and the Doors at night for concerts and stuff. But then later on, he worked for the Pennsylvania Department of Health, and he was actually for most of his like time, the first early on, his main field was tracking and trying to prevent the spread of STDs. And like he said that he always said that he wasn't sure which was worse, trying to track the spread and go into the prisons, like the spread of the STDs inside the prisons, or all of the husbands that would beg him not to contact the wife and have her get tested because they went out and banged some diseased person and probably brought the disease back to their marital bed. But I think later on, he was much more administrative. But my mom, she was like the first person in her family to go to college. Back in the time when you could work at a local bread factory over the summer and pay for a year of college. But she was actually one of her good friends was a roommate to the first black person at that college admitted. And but the crazy thing is, like, she actually wanted to be a doctor. She was to go into pre-med route, but then her advisor didn't believe that women should be in the medical field, and every class she had with him, no matter how well she did, she got a C, and that made it really difficult to proceed in trying to become a doctor. So instead, she went to the teaching field. And she actually taught for a long time in high school at anatomy, physiology, biology, and earth science. But then when she had kids, she switched to a part-time adjunct professor at a local technical college that's an affiliate for Penn State. And she would mainly taught nurses. She taught nurses for a couple decades. Like she taught them medical terminology and anatomy and physiology. And like she has talked a lot about, like, she had an interesting career because like she actually created their distance learning program. But like she also is really really good with like helping people learn things, because like medical terminology, you're almost like you're learning a new language, like all the prefixes and suffixes and everything. So like she like created her own like textbooks and her own like study guides and everything. But like I know that for the distance learning program she created, like a way later, like relatively recently, like my second cousin was taking it, and even though now like they have cameras and stuff, back then there were like I think webcams weren't that spread out yet, so it was all just the honor system essentially. But like I said, that they're still using for medical terminology a lot of her tests and her study guides. But it was interesting. She always thought that people should try to help people learn and move on and become nurses. But she was like one of the main actual tenured professors, like believed that a certain amount of people every year should fail. and she'd have to take the class again. Like students called her the Shermanator, and they would always be like people with them. The second time would get my mom, and they'd be like completely different experience. Like she'd done won multiple times for like the favorite teacher of the year, but like it was very interesting though because there wasn't really another nursing school in our area. Like if you went to the doctor's office, any of the family doctors, if you went to anything at the hospital, anything going on, there was like a 90% chance that someone along the way would have been one of my mom's students. So it's very interesting, but it's cool, you know. But like she actually also too, and like later after she mostly like she retired teaching the credit courses, she helped create a program for women that get a second chance at life, like if they have an abusive relationship or if they just like needed something different, and they help them get their GEDs and it help them become certified LPNs, and they get the whole program again, the medical terminology and anatomy physiology. I think actually like she taught one time they didn't have the person there, so they had to try to teach a little bit of chemistry, which she needed my help with. But like it's like she's done a lot of work with him. And I know her proudest time with him when with that stuff with this is trying to get them certified as LPNs, which is kind of like a glorified like secretary. It's not, but like it's not a full registered nurse. But she was so proud when some of the students that were younger and got a new a love of learning and went back to college to actually become a full registered nurse. And it was so interesting. Like one of her last surgeries, she had a hip surgery, a hip replacement, and one of the people was there's still one of the guy was still one of her students, and she said that he still has her like textbook for medical terminology in his locker, just in case he ever needed to look at it for a refresher on some of the terms. So like it's like I'm always proud of that. But also it's interesting to see like there's so many different parts in the medical system that it's great to see the Pitt have what they offer. It's a lot of really interesting stuff here. That it's an amazing show. And it is very like doctor like specific and nurse specific. Like they don't focus too much on the patient experience, except for them being annoying. But I will say that it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit more about what they can do to help. I feel like a lot of the stuff you get to see, what happens behind the scenes. But I think too, if you ever have a loved one that is going in the hospital, I think that it's best to try to be there and help them, like take notes, try to help, like, because so many times they have to repeat everything that's going on. If you can then kind of help them out so the patient doesn't have to repeat it like the sixth time, and you can tell they can still make sure the doctor and nurses knows what's going on. And even like if you be there, if you're staying overnight with them or staying visiting them a lot, like make sure like to make the nurses' jobs easier to like if you say make sure it's okay first, but if you can go get them ice or go get them a drink or make sure their IV machine is plugged in and make sure help them stand or get up, go to the bathroom and everything. That's like make it easier for everyone and make it, and also too, speak up if they need help. Like I know like my mom, she had colon cancer in her cecum, like completely like it was completely localized, and she was able to just have no chemo, just surgery, like have to remove half of her colon and put it back together. But like she had like there was a leakage from one of the staples, which it had a bad infection, and in the emergency room. And because she was just not deathly ill, but she was in so much pain, I think from the start of the infection, that like she was getting whiter and whiter and whiter, and I had to go and be there for her and tell the nurse, the nurses or whatever in charge that hey, my mom's having trouble breathing. We need to get her in and get her, looked at. And then the second you say that in the emergency room, it feels like you'll be there for hours. And the second you say something that like increases you to the next step, like they immediately got in the back and got her on oxygen and got her on IV antibiotics, and then she was fine then. But like you have to be your best advocate like if you can't, if the patient can be an advocate, if you have a friend or loved one, you really should try to step up and help them and be there for them. I guess especially if you have a friend that's a black woman, that's like it's when you look at some of the studies how like doctors don't believe black women, like they're even black people especially black women, that they treat them differently than other people. Like, but if you're a white man and you have a black friend, like you try to be an advocate for them if they're ever in the hospital. But the show itself is just amazing. I probably give like a 9.5 out of 10. Sorry if I went off a big tangent at the end, but thanks for watching. If you want to see more of me, you can subscribe down below. Thanks.